What is up, Scream Team? Zach Cherry here, and I've already made a video where I've given you my predictions for who I think the killers will be in Scream 6. So now I actually want to give you my predictions for what I think the motive will be of those killers. I would actually argue that the motive is the most important part of the movie, and the thing that is the biggest surprise, because anyone can really predict who the killers are going to be. There's only so many characters in a movie that you can say it's going to be this person or that person, or a combination of these two or these three. But when you find out why they're doing it, that's really the factor that could make or break the movie. Because if for whatever reason it doesn't work, it's just gonna leave the fan base extremely frustrated and they're gonna walk out of the movie hating it. So every time a new Scream movie comes out, we're hit with these fantastical over-the-top fan theories that are really so ridiculous that people think and believe that we could actually see this happening because it's something that hasn't happened before. For instance, the return of Stu Macher, who's organizing a huge cult of ghost faces, or the very unlikely possibility that the killer will be Sydney, or Kirby, or Sam, or any number of returning survivors. A lot of these ideas just really lack any sort of sound logic. Like, I might be bamboozled by it, but if you can't coherently tell me how this has happened, I'm gonna hate this twist. So most of the people who bring up this idea just say, well, just put it in there and we'll deal with it later. We'll figure it out later. And that's where you run into your problems, because if you can't figure it out now, you're never gonna figure it out. If you can't sum up what the killer's motive is in a short paragraph, it's not a good motive. So when you do look back at the motives of the past killers, they're not these big, grand, fantastical schemes. They're more or less very simplistic and grounded in reality. Obviously, I know that we're 6 films in and they're gonna wanna do something that's fresh and inventive and that we were not expecting. And I think that they're still gonna do that, but I think that it's still going to take place on planet Earth. So when it comes to figuring out what the motive will be, I think the place you need to start is at the very end of the movie and then reverse engineer it from there. So the question you have to ask is, who is the person that the killers are planning to frame? And I think that just with the trailer and all the emphasis placed on Sam being Billy Loomis's daughter and her having this darkness within her, I think that very much like Scream 5, we're going to see that Sam is going to continue to be this character who is going to be framed by the killer. I think that they're really going to want to play with this aspect and maybe do a more successful job of making us think that she could be the killer. That was kind of one of my gripes with Scream 5, where they didn't really present her as being a possible suspect, even though they had all the resources at their hands to do so. So I do think that this script is going to cast a lot of doubt on Sam's character and perceived innocence. And in that regard, I think we're going to need to think of what the killer's relationship to Sam is going to be, in which way they're going to exploit her mental illness or, you know, just the fact that she is Billy Loomis's daughter, and how they're going to use that against her. The other thing that I think is being majorly overlooked here is Gale Weathers, because most people are coming into this and thinking that this is Sam's story or Sam and Tara's story. And, you know, I think it very well is. It's going to be about them overcoming the trauma of last year and moving on with their life and her battling her demons. But I think that the other half of this movie is going to be centered around Gale. And, you know, we even saw that in the trailer where it seems like she is personally being targeted by this killer. She's receiving her first phone call that she picks up. So I think that a possibility that we might need to consider is that the killer or killers aren't trying to get revenge on Sam, but actually trying to get revenge on Gale. And if that's the case, I would argue that whoever this person is that's out to get Gale is going to use Sam and frame her for Gale and everyone else's murder by the end of the movie. So in my killer predictions video, I actually said that there was going to be 3 killers. That's what I think this time. I think it's going to be the characters of Carly and Allison. They're seen on the posters here. And then a third character who actually isn't on the poster and they're not in any of the trailer material. scenario, and that is Professor Freddy, who is played by Henry Czerny. There's also a very interesting shot in the trailer where we see Sam sitting on a couch and she's talking to someone who is off screen. We don't see who they are. A lot of people have conjectured that this is a therapist she is talking to, and that very well might be. We know that the characters are going to Blackmore University, or at least some of the characters are. If that's the case, I can see this Professor Freddy character being someone very much like Gus, the drama professor in Scream 2, who's just kind of a mentor to Sidney. He just shows up in the one scene, but I can see them doing another scenario where we have another hidden in plain sight killer, which is somebody who's very peripheral. They're in the background. They're more or less a glorified extra in the movie, very much like the way that Mrs. Loomis was in Scream 2, where they'll probably get a couple of scenes scattered throughout the movie and then just show up at the end and be revealed. So if that's the case, I think that this character, this Professor Freddy, is going to be the main Ghostface, the mastermind here. The other two, Carly and Allison, I would imagine that their potential motive could be that, you know, if they do go to school and Professor Freddy is also their professor, it could be a scenario where he's getting them to commit murders for him in order to get a good grade and pass. Pure and simple. I mean, we've seen motives that are even more basic than that, but, you know, I can see that potentially being the second or third Ghostface's motive. In terms of Professor Freddy, or this character who's maybe posing as a professor, who knows, this is the character who I think is tied to Gale from her past. And what I believe is that this is somebody who probably worked alongside Gale way back in the 90s. Obviously, we've seen she's cutthroat. She's run over a lot of people to get ahead in her career. And I can see this as being a scenario where the Henry Czerny character is somebody who she steamrolled in order to get ahead. He might have been the reporter working for Top Story that was supposed to cover the Woodsboro murders, but because of, you know, Gale doing her Gale thing, she got to go there instead. And that was the event that launched her career and made her super successful and famous and, you know, who she is now.
I should be in New York covering the Sharon Stone stalker, but who knew?
Meanwhile, this guy lost out on the opportunity of a lifetime, and, you know, possibly that doesn't sit right with him. You know, he probably feels that he is owed so much more. You know, that's usually the case with these killers. So I can see this as someone who might have obsessed over the crimes of the Ghostface killers over the past 26 years and, you know, went out of their way to collect this memorabilia or, you know, evidence or whatever to, you know, create this shrine that we see. And this was sort of his way of bringing it all back to this rivalry he has with Gale. And, you know, just because we don't have Sidney in this movie, it does give Gale this opportunity to really come to the forefront. And, you know, we've never seen a killer go after her specifically for something that is individual to her. You know, we had Mrs. Loomis go after Gale because she shot Billy at the end of Scream 1, but that was something that she shared with Sidney, whereas this is something that's completely unique to Gale and is a great way of integrating her into this storyline with all these other characters. I also think that just because this is a character that is more so connected to the university and the school, that it's somebody who's not going to have any interactions with Gale throughout the movie. Very much like how Sidney never crossed paths with Mrs. Loomis at any point during Scream 2 until the very end when she recognized her. And even though this is something that is more so personal between the killer and Gale, it sort of thrusts Sam into it as well because it's now affecting her on a personal level as she's now been betrayed by somebody who she may have trusted and is also having to grapple with these demons that she possesses inside of her and, you know, how that makes her a killer or a target to these killers. Anyway, that's my prediction for the killer's motive. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out these other Scream related videos right over here. Until next time, I've been Zach Cherry and I'll be right back.